What's up, you guys? Hey, thanks for watching this video. I actually am on vacation and I'm just in my hotel room, so I thought I'd make a little video here because this hotel room is f***ing badass. One of the perks of studying a lot, going to school for a really long time, is that you make, I don't know, I guess you're like in the top 15% of people as far as income goes in the States, well, I guess in the world. So sometimes, you know, if you want to treat yourself like I did for this weekend. I spent maybe a little bit much, a little more than I should have, but it's my birthday and I said fuck it, I'm just gonna do it anyway. So every once in a while it's fun to do. But save your money mostly, okay? Don't spend it all like an idiot. This video I wanted to talk about, somebody asked me, I'm looking at YouTube comments, tell about the first patient I lost. So that's an interesting thing to talk about because nobody wants to talk about those things because obviously that we think that if we admit that, you know, then it's like, oh, I'm responsible for somebody dying or something like that. And so there's 100,000 medical errors in the United States estimated per year. It's probably more than that cause death. Okay, so there's the whole like do no harm, which is crazy and stupid because we do a lot of things to people that, you know, we're trying not to harm them, obviously trying to help them, but a lot of times we actually do harm them, whether it's medication, you know, side effects or adverse reactions or whatever. I don't know, it's just like a stupid saying, and I hate when people say that. Somebody said that not too long ago, either on Instagram or YouTube. I'm just like, dude, if you're a doctor and you believe that, like, you basically have not been a doctor very long yet. But there's a lot of books out there too where people talk about dying patients and medical errors and things like that. So we do it, you know, we're all human and we make mistakes and we have problems, you know, with all sorts of different disease processes and, you know, surgery, and just complications happen. And, you know, one of the fellows that I was training under, he was a vascular fellow. He's like, you know, if you play football, you're gonna get tackled. So if you play surgery, bad shit's gonna happen. People are gonna die. Like, that's just how it is. Maybe not in, I don't know. I was gonna say maybe not in plastic surgery or maybe not ENT, but still, surgery is very dangerous. Anything can happen. Anytime you go into surgery as a surgeon, you have to know in the back of your mind that this patient could possibly die from whatever thing. Like, every time I do appendicitis on an 18-year-old kid, you know, or a 25-year-old kid, they're super healthy, anything can happen. They could have a really bad reaction to the antibiotics that we give them, and they could have, you know, severe anaphylactic shock and get super sick and die from that, or I could injure the bowel, or, you know, anything, and then not recognize it. They can be super sick after. So anyway, you always kind of know that, and people always ask me how do you deal with it? And it's incremental because it's just like learning anything. You know, at first it's like really new and you're like, holy shit, how do I deal with this? And it happens like one time. It's really tough. So I'll tell the story of this lady. I was in the ICU, cardiothoracic ICU, and she had an emergent CABG, so coronary artery bypass grafting. She came in, she had a heart attack. She was about to die. The surgeon did a sternotomy and bypassed her coronary vessels, gave her back her blood flow to the heart. I remember post-op day like 2, she was pretty big. She was like obese and then short, so BMI is like really high. I was on at nights, and usually in the night I try and do all the shit to get them to like look really good for the morning rounds, so that way the surgeon's like, hey, great job, you know, like whatever. So this one I like did all that stuff, sit her up in the chair, like, you know, get her and send a barometer, like do all this stuff, and he comes around and he's like, she looks great, send her out of the ICU. I was like, she's not really quite ready yet. And he's like, nah, just send her, she's fine. So I was like, oh, okay. So I sent her out of the ICU, or they sent her out of the ICU that day. I was still on nights. I come back that night, and it was like, it was 7P to 7A. I came back in, I don't think I rounded. So what happens is when you're on ICU, cardiothoracic ICU, you take care of most of the ICU patients, but the cardiac patients on the floor, after they go out of the ICU, you really don't, you only tend to like emergencies. And there's a cardiac surgery resident that sees those patients in the daytime, but at night, like you're the person to take care of stuff. It's like if somebody crashes or something. So the nurse called me, and it was like a nurse that I didn't really trust, and I was like, I didn't really like her because she would tell me stuff and it would be wrong. So she calls me and I'm like going to get food. Okay, I'm like in the cafeteria. The cafeteria's about to close because whatever, it's like 7 or whatever time it closes. So it's like 5 minutes before the cafeteria closes, and I'm like almost there. And she calls me. She's like, "Hey, this patient is like having a tough time breathing." Blah blah blah. I was like, "Okay, give her maybe some nabs or something like that." I can't remember what happened. And then so I go get my food, and I go up to see her. So she's like had basically died, and she was like maybe, I don't know, in her 60s or 70s. I can't really remember. I think it's 60s. So I was like, oh, that looks bad. Holy fuck. So I go and I, check her pulse, and the nurse was standing there, and I was like, what? This looks, what's going, does she have a pulse? And the nurse was like, oh, I don't really know. So I was like, oh my God, so some nurses are awesome, and other nurses they're not quite there yet. Let's put it that way. So I went there, no pulse. I was like, oh my God, she's blue in the face. So they call a code, we start doing compressions, got her intubated. She, during the intubation, she aspirates. All this, oh, I forgot to tell the crucial part of the story. So the patient was asking for a hamburger that day. She's like, I want regular food, I want a hamburger, french fries, and this and that. And I was like, oh man, take it easy. And she scarfs down all this hamburger, and it's whatever, just all that stuff comes up. All this green, she barfs all this green stuff, goes in her lungs, ground hamburger, all this, it was bad. And she essentially died from a really bad pneumonitis, almost overnight, pretty much overnight. So in the middle of the night sometime, I had to call the family in to tell them that, they didn't get in the hospital really fast, she's doing really poorly. And by the time they got there, the patient had died. So the last time the family saw her, she was up and awake and eating regular food and, obviously hurting from her sternotomy, but talking no problem. So the family gets there and then I had to tell them that she had died. So, and they just, obviously a surprise like that, they were crushed and actually fell on the floor screaming and stuff. It was horrible. But I really felt bad because that nurse called me and said, hey, this patient's not doing well, or I can't remember what she said, but I just got this feeling after that I was like, man, if I would have just turned around and not went to go get my food right there, turn around and go up to see that patient, maybe I could have saved her, So that was my first really bad one that was I really felt it was my fault, and I could have done something before to intervene. It's really hard. I was devastated. It hurts for weeks, maybe months after that. And you don't, I couldn't sleep well. I just had this terrible feeling in this pit of your stomach. You're like, oh my God, I did that kind of thing. And there's a lot of things that go into some event like that. There's usually multiple stops where you can help somebody, and so the surgeons really usually blame themselves for everything. When we do morbidity and mortality conference, we always we never blame the patient. The patient obviously participates in the healthcare, but we always blame ourselves because we're the one taking care of them. We feel that we're responsible, and somebody has to take responsibility, right? So we always do it, and so that's how I feel. So when things like that happen, and they've happened, I've had plenty more of things like that. I always feel like it's my fault, and I was oh, I could have intervened in these places. I mean, obviously other people could have intervened as well in all of these scenarios, but I always take it upon myself. And so the first one, it hurt for months, and the second one hurt for a little less than that, and the third one hurt for a little less than that, And then you have to realize that these things are going to happen. You learn from all of them, but it's a big deal. You know, it's not really great when this stuff happens. I had one not too long ago where I felt like I did something wrong, or I don't know if I did something wrong, but I felt like I did. Like looking at the scenario, I was like, well, you know, this probably was my fault here, which led to like a domino effect of a lot of things, and then the patient died like, you know, a few weeks later. So it's really hard to kind of do that all the time, but that is general surgery, that's cardiac surgery, that's transplant surgery. You know, I'm not sure that you get any better at it, or it gets better, but you have to deal with it. That's our job. I'm not sure what to say, because I think people want me to say something that's like, how do you deal with it? But you just have to. There's not really an algorithm for it, I don't think. Unless, maybe there is, I don't know. There probably is actually somewhere, like some psychologist is probably watching this going, what the fuck is this guy doing? I don't know, you guys wanted to know that story, so there you go, that's a story. I guess that's not as fun of a video, maybe, I don't know, maybe for some people. Anyway, I hope you guys like this channel. I hope you like this piece of wood right here. This is amazing. This place is crazy cool. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, share, all that stuff. And if you guys have those kind of, you know, experiences, let me know in the comments. Anyway, hey, thanks you guys so much for watching all these videos. It's so awesome. I love your comments as well. Try and get to all of them. I can't always get to all of them, but I do read them, so keep putting them down. So I will see you next one.